my grandma and your grandma was
Hey
sitting
everybody, it's Murphy Gray Hunter, and it is Monday, June 12th. Okay, it is about, shoot, what time is it? About 7:30 in the evening. It's still so nice and bright outside. The light that's hitting me is from outside. It's still really nice and bright out. So I'm going to give y'all a grandma story. I know I've not given you a grandma story in a while because my life has been upside down with all the things that's been going on. But things are starting to simmer down finally. And my witchy room is up and I'm able to do videos in here. I'm super excited. So after this video, I'm going to be doing a few more videos. So I'm going to be doing this one. I'm going to be doing one showing how to make holes in your candles for oils and herbs and things like that. Just kind of showing you how to do that. I'm going to show some of the herbs that I purchased at the Mexican meat markets. Like I'm just going to kind of show you the things that they sell there because I'm always talking about them. And I'm also going to do a video just talking about the recipe. Some of you guys have asked me, y'all want the recipe to some of the food that I made. So I'm just going to just tell you because I don't know when the next time I'm going to make it. So I'm just going to tell you exactly what to get, okay? So anyway, let's do this one. So I'm gonna have to go back through the videos, the grandma stories videos, because I'm not sure what stories I have told y'all already. So I have to see which ones. I run about 15 different Facebook pages and other social media, and I'm Dory. Hello, my name is Dory, and I'm forgetful. So I have to look through there to see which ones I've told y'all. I don't think I told y'all this one though. So a really cute little fun fact about my grandma before we do this story is that my grandma used to wear like these dresses, like, you know, just a regular dress, like they have these type of sleeves and kind of like a button-down dress, and it kind of cinched in the waist, and they were always like plaid or some type of floral or something. But she always wore little white bobby socks with the little black witch shoes. You know, the black witch shoes, like what do they call it, like Mary Jane's? The black ones with the big thick strap and the little fat chunky heel and the pointed toes. That's what she wore all the time. Those were grandma's shoes. As she got older, she would wear house shoes, but when she went to the store, anywhere, she would buy white bobby socks and those shoes. Anyway, so my grandmother had 15 children. Now, remember, my grandma got married when she was 15 to my grandpa, who was 35 at the time. My grandma is full-blooded Apache Indian. She's from the Lipan tribe, right? Okay, so, and my grandpa is full-blooded German, and I don't remember the name of the village that he came from, but I have that written down in my, well, it's a big old wasp outside, in this book that I have all my ancestry stuff. Anyway, so she had 15 children, and one of my uncles, I'm not sure because I'm not close with a lot of the family on that side, on my dad's side. He lived in California. I don't know if he still does, but at the time he did. He lived in California with his wife. My grandma did not like his wife. She was not fond of the daughter-in-law. And so they were going through some rough patches where she was cheating on my uncle, and my uncle would not leave her. He would stay with her, and my grandma would say stuff like, you know, she's got some kind of brujeria on you, like some kind of witchcraft on you, she's making you stay, and blah, 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 you should leave her, all this stuff, right? And so then one time he said, no, I'm going to work it out, we're going to stay with her, whatever. Then he called and he says, I'm definitely not going to leave her now because she's pregnant. And so my grandmother's like, you are not going to get stuck with her. And so I know there's a lot more details in it because obviously I only know a little bit. And I don't even know all the truth to this. But my mom said that the daughter-in-law, you know, the wife was, I don't know how far along she was, but my grandmother never flew either. She was terrified to fly. Maybe that's where I get it from. She was terrified to fly. She never flew anywhere. but she knew if she wanted to go to California, she was going to have to fly. So she told my mom that she is going to fly to California and she's going to take care of this problem. Okay, so she went, she stayed for a week, and she came back, and then my mom asked her, was everything okay? She goes, oh yeah, I took care of that problem. You'll see. And then like maybe a couple of weeks passed, and my uncle's wife, I guess my aunt, I have no idea who she was, or like I said, I don't know. She miscarried. She lost her baby. And so since she miscarried, they went ahead and divorced. And so she just said she was not going to have her son tied up to that woman, because she wasn't even sure if that was his baby, because she was cheating. What she did, I have no idea, but she told my mom she was going to go and take care of that problem. I was like, oh my God, my grandma was a baby killer. That's a terrible story, isn't it? But it's really simple, but I mean, I don't know what she did, but anyway, those of y'all who are curious about the book, my aunt, passed away, and I never went to go check on it, but her husband is living in the house. And so, I mean, if I wanted to go see, I would have to go through him, but that's not even a thing to me anymore. I was really persistent that I wanted the book. I wanted to see it. I wanted, and now I just realized that it's not even that important anymore. Over here, right there, those are my grandma's, right there. Those are my grandma's books. They're the ones that I showed y'all. And then the handkerchief and the little egg belongs to my maternal grandparents. The handkerchief is my grandma's, and the egg is my grandpa's. He had that when he was a baby, and that handkerchief still smells like my grandma's perfume. But anyway, yeah, I just figured it doesn't even matter, because the book has been torn apart, has been disassembled, its parts have been burned, because from what I found out is that the family I don't know if the family just didn't want me to have it, or just didn't want anyone in the family to have it, or what it was. But my grandma used to do those type of things where, my mom told me when she first met my grandma, that she, when she first met my grandma, she was really into, a lot of witchcraft, but since she was a Native American, she did a lot of healing stuff, a lot of healing remedies, and so they would call her the curandera, which is like the witch doctor. And my grandmother spoke Spanish, and so did my grandpa, so that's really what they spoke, because my grandma didn't understand German, and my grandpa didn't understand Native American. So, back in those days, a long time ago, the international language was Spanish, because that was something that the Native Americans could understand and the white people could understand, and they would talk, Anyway, I'm sure that there's more to it than that, so don't be like, that's not right. That's just I'm not giving a history lesson here. I'm just kind of saying fun fact. Anyway, so, where was I going with this? Anyway, my grandma was the type of, she used to do a lot of healing stuff. And now my mom told me that they would bring, right before school would start, people would bring their children to her that were full of head lice. They would bring them to my grandma so she could de-lice them, and so she would soak their hair. Like she would say, just leave them here and come pick them up by the end of the day and they'll be done. And so she would charge so much for each kid, right? She would dunk their whole hair. She would saturate all their hair with kerosene. Oh, she would soak their hair in kerosene and wrap their hair up in plastic, right? And she let them play outside for hours. Y'all go play, whatever. And then after they've had it in their hair for so long, then she'd take them to the side of the house with the water hose, and she washed it all out with shampoo real good, and she washed it all out with some special bar shampoo that she made. My mom said she used to make her own bar soap, and she had this special soap that she would make for them, and she would wash it all out. She said that their hair would be so shiny and so clean. And she had that comb, and she would get a regular comb, and she would thread it with thread, like she would just, you know, in and out of the teeth of the comb with thread, in and out, to make it really tight. And then she would just like that, and everything that was in their hair, all the eggs, all the light, they would just fall out because she fucking poisoned them. I'm like, oh my God, could you imagine if one of those kids went around a flame? You know, like, but yeah, that was what she did. And they knew, I mean, the parents knew. They're just like, okie dokie, I'm gonna leave them here and you take what you gotta do. That was just crazy. But yeah, she just got to the point to where her main thing that people would come to her for was for, you know, like love. They wanted love spells. They wanted money spells. They wanted to be able to have whatever they wanted. And so my grandmother was the one who showed them how to go to the crossroads. She would go with them. So in that book that she had all the instructions in there. Not that I want to do it myself, but I just thought that that was something so powerful and so different that I wanted to have. I really wanted that book. I mean, you guys know, I can't even lie and say I didn't want that book. I really, really wanted that book. I'm very into my witchcraft. Of course I would want that book. Would I practice anything in that book? Probably not. A lot of it was written in Native American. Some stuff was in Spanish and some things were in English, but majority of it was in Native American. How wonderful it is to have something in my family heritage and my culture. Anyway, but it's gone now. So, but yes, they said my mom would, because my mom used to live there with him for a while, and she said that it would be late, and so they would come knocking on the door, and so my grandma would tell my mom she's gonna go and she'll be back, and she would take her little book with her, her little black book with her, and she'd go off, and she'd come back a few hours. She's like, okay. And she always had, my grandma always had money. When my grandma first came into the town, the man who owns the little store, he knew my grandmother. He's the owner of this little like mom and pop type of grocery store. It's a grocery store / botanica, so they sell witchcraft items there also. I remember going there when we were little to go get like pickles and snow cones. It was like about maybe like 3 blocks away from my grandma's house, and we would go there. Like, it was just a regular thing. We'd go there and get candy, but I remember we used to go get pickles and snow cones and like soda, and we used to get peanuts and put the peanuts inside the Coke and eat and drink it like that. Anyway, so that was his store. It's called Eddie's. And so when we were there, I remember telling y'all this in a video. When we were there, Eddie was there, and he was just like, hey, where y'all from? You know, blah, blah, blah. And when I say, oh, my grandmother used to live here. She was, you know, she lived right back here. And he told me the name. I'm like, yeah. And he says, so-and-so your father? I'm like, yeah. And he's just like, wow. He says, I didn't know he had a daughter. Like, wow. Really? But, you know, because there were so many, like, you know, he didn't know who belonged to who, because my grandma had 15. And so, as they all got older, they all, like, moved away to different parts of, you know, different parts of the United States. But he just said that he remembered when my grandmother came into town. He was young, my grandma was young, and they came into town, and they had bought the house. And there was there was a lot of talk about the land that they had bought, because the land that the house was built on was had a lot of history to it. That there are I think 2 or 3 dead bodies buried under. They don't know who they belong to, but they're buried under where my grandma's house is, and the trees in the front and the trees in the back, they said they used to hang slaves from there a long, long time ago. This town used to be called Plum Creek a long time ago. And I looked it up and I'm like, wow, I had no idea there was so much history there. Horrible stuff. You know, and they used that property they used to do slave trade where they would put them up on a like a stage, like a platform, and they would sell slaves. And they used to hang them. And the reason why I know this part is because the lady who lives on the side of my grandma, she's a very old woman, and she came over and she was talking to my aunt, and she told her that she sees that my aunt always has garage sales, and she always wanted to go and see what my aunt was selling, but she never wanted to step foot on the property because of what is linked to the property. She says she remembers she grew up in that house. She was born and raised in that house that they live in. That, well, I think she already died, but she said that she remembered as a little girl looking out of her house and seeing men and women hung from these trees. And of course, my grandmother's house wasn't there at the time, but the land was already tainted with all this. And then, of course, when my grandparents came, they bought the land and they built a house on top. Now, I don't know if that maybe they got it cheap for some reason. I have no idea. I don't know all of that. But anyway, she was just saying that she never came over to see my grandma because her grandma was considered the town witch and just didn't, you know, her parents told her just to stay away from my grandma because of all the things that she did. And so, but the guy, Eddie, who owned the store, said, I remember your grandma coming, and she didn't have a car, and she came walking. She came walking up, and she had this big bag in her hand, and she comes walking up, and she just said to him, I don't have any money, but I need things, and if you will give me credit, I promise you I will pay you back, and I will always pay you. I will be a what did he say? She would be a loyal customer. And he told her, well, we don't do credit here. And she says, but I really want you to do credit for me. And so he says, I don't know why I did it. He goes, I never do credit. He goes, we've never done credit in this store. And he goes, and your grandmother was the only one I did credit for. He says, I didn't do credit for nobody else but her. He goes, I just couldn't tell her no. And he says, so she came in and she only took what she needed. And sure enough, every Friday she'd come and she'd pay her bill. And he said, I never had problems with her. Never. He says, so, but he says that he was talking about my grandma. My grandma had a reputation around the town as being the town witch. And that if you needed anything done, if you were sick, if you needed your husband to not cheat, or your wife to not cheat, or you wanted to get this person to love you, or that person to love you, or you wanted to hex somebody, or you wanted to make a deal with the devil, they knew to come to my grandma. And my grandma's specialty was taking people to the crossroads. And I know it sounds crazy, but when you hear so many people telling you this, it's just so fascinating to know, because I love being a witch, and I love history in general. You know, I love history in general, and to know that is part of our history. Again, I always say, just because I come from a lineage of witches, my grandmother was a witch, her mother was a witch, and her mother they were medicine women, you know, in their tribe. And it's such a huge honor to come from medicine women, a line from medicine women, because I love our Native American background, and it's something that, it's not just like, oh, I have some Indian in me. No, it speaks to my inner core. Like, it speaks to me, like almost like that movie Jumanji, where they're sitting there and they hear the drums, they hear the drums from the game. I swear that's what it feels like to me sometimes, like, you know. And so just the fact that that she was Native American, the fact that has passed to us, that's a huge honor right there. But to know that she comes from a line of medicine women and knew so much, everything that she knew was passed down. And so to know that it stopped with her, I know things that she's taught me, and I really try to, like, search my brain to like really like, I'm in my brain and I'm clear, like throwing all this stuff that I don't even need anymore. Let me just throw away some of these memories, and maybe that I'll have room for that, you know, like declutter my head, you know, trying to remember everything. And I'm always like digging for information from family and from everyone that knows her, because it's just, I want to remember, because I do remember my grandmother teaching me a lot of stuff. And my grandmother didn't speak a lot of English, so she spoke a lot of Native American and Spanish, and I don't speak either one. Some things are very familiar to me, like, you know, Spanish, and some other words are very familiar to me, but like I said, it's just a matter of pulling those memories up. And so yeah, it's such a huge honor, and I'm going to try to remember everything my grandmother has done and showed me, and I'm really going to pursue to try to get some more photos, to try to get more things of my grandmother, because it just means a lot to me. But yeah, I think it was fascinating. I'm just so fascinated by the fact that she was the town witch. And as scary and horrible as it is to take people to the crossroads, I mean, God, what a badass witch that she could have that kind of, you know, power. She would go with them. She would tell them to meet her at a certain time, and they would go to wherever she would take them, whatever crossroads she would take them. And that's something else that I'm definitely trying to figure out, which crossroads she took them to. They would, she would take her book, and in that book, she would have this little, like, show, like, she would know what to put, like, what she would have to draw certain things on the ground, and then she would say something, and then she would tell them to say something, and then she would, after they would say their part, then she would tell them, okay, this is where I leave you. And she would tell them, he's going to come to you, and he's going to come to you in a form of something black, a black man, not like a African-American man, like an all-black figure man, a black cat, a black dog, some kind of thing. You will know when he comes. And when he comes, he will make that pact with you. My grandmother told my mom that the pact consisted of okay, so I know it sounds like it's so like supernatural, you know, movie, or, you know, Rosemary Baby type of shit, but she said that they would come, the figure would come, and whether it was, I don't think that it was the devil himself. I think it was probably another demon that came in his stead. But he would come with an actual contract, and they would have to sign it. They would have to poke themselves, and not just sign, but their fingerprint. That's what it needed, just their fingerprint. And that was it. It was bound. And then they would go home, and then they would wake up, and boom, they would have the money. Whatever they asked for, it was there. And it never lasted. My grandmother would tell them that when they come to make the pact with you, they're going to say you have up to 7, 10, whatever years. But she says it won't last that long. They can come for you in days, in weeks, in months, in years. But you never know when they're coming. And so some of the people that we know that got taken were taken, within the first 1 or 2 years. So, you never know. And so those are the kind of stories that I'm just really fascinated with. And of course, all of her healing ointments. That's number one thing that I really would love to know. She healed the back of my back of my heel when I sliced it open with a piece of glass. We were playing in a creek, and I stepped on some glass, and I have a huge scar about that long. And my brother carried me home, 2 blocks home, and there was just a trail of blood. And when I got there, my mom was like losing her mind. My grandmother took me into her kitchen, sat me up on the counter, and she opened up this huge cabinet, and she had glass jars of all kinds of stuff, all kinds of stuff, like all kinds of goodies, And she put a big pot to boil, and she just took a lot of stuff, and she just started putting handfuls of stuff. And then it got all bubbly. She mixed it all up. Then she took a rag, and she put the rag in there, and she let it boil. And then she got the rag out, and then once it was nice and saturated, then we went outside to the front porch. Well, we had there was a swing, and she put my head in my mom's lap, and she took my foot, and we were just rocking back and forth, and she wrapped that around my foot, and I fell asleep. And when I woke up, it was all sealed. It looks like I've had stitches, but there was no stitches there. It was it was open. It was a gash, because you know how I stepped on a beer bottle and just cut it open. And the skin on the heel of your foot isn't that type that just, it needs stitches. And it was just all together. So she healed it. She's the one who pierced my ears. She put some kind of ointment on my ears, and it got numb, and then she just pierced my ears. Also, I have, like those stickers that grow outside, like the stickers that poke you. Well, I remember I had something on my forehead. I can't remember what it is. I don't remember what it is. Something on my forehead. I don't even remember which side it was. Something happened to me, and I had like a little hole in my forehead. I don't remember if I fell or I got shot with a BB gun. I don't remember. And I say that because my brothers were always shooting my ass with a BB gun. Hated them. Anyway, and so I remember I had a hole. And again, my mom was like losing her mind. And my grandma took some stickers from outside, and she put them in this ointment, and they got really soft. And then she squeezed them down like this, made them flat, and she filled my hole with these stickers. And then she put ointment, and then she covered it with a piece of tape. And then I don't have any scars on my forehead. I'm gonna have to ask my mom about that, because I don't have any scars, but I remember I had a hole in my forehead. And I don't know which bastard, one of my brothers, what bastard brothers poked a hole in my, I know it was one of them. I just remember what they did. I don't know if I got pushed out of the tree or they shot me with a BB gun, but it was a hole. I guess when I was little, I could stick my pinky in it. It was that, I remember that. But she took care of it with some stickers. But yeah, I mean, I'll look through there and see what other stories, because I don't want to just tell you things I've already told you, because I don't remember. But my grandmother was just a real character. Like, she got hit 3 times. Like, she had like 2 strokes. Like, it hit her 1 time, and then again, and then I don't know if she had a heart attack the last time, but it was her heart. And so then she got another attack, and this time it killed her. So the first time it happened, she couldn't walk afterwards. Then the second time it happened, it took away her voice, but she was still doing stuff with her hands. And then she died. I don't know. Could have been coincidence. I'm not a believer in the law of 3, because I'm not Wiccan. I'm not pagan. I don't believe that what comes around comes back to you in 3 times fold. I don't believe that personally myself. I know a lot of witches do, and like I said, everyone is completely different. Not dogging it at all, but I personally don't believe in that. I just feel like if you're afraid to do something, you shouldn't do it. But because I just don't do things randomly like that, but still, so I have no idea. But anyway, I do have some graveyard dirt from my grandmother's grave, because I still do visit my grandmother and my grandpa's grave. So I don't know, I'm probably gonna have to go and see. Now that I have my witchy room put up, I would love to have some photos, something, it doesn't have to be the book, but I would like to have something, that the history, my ancestor history is so important to me. I'm working on a book for my children, so all this stuff means a lot to me. So I know this probably wasn't super exciting as like the other stories, but I'm going to go through there and see what stories I've told you, and then I'm going to write them down, and that way I'll know which stories I've told you, and I'll write down the stories that I haven't told you, so when I get on, I can tell you, okay? So I don't want to feel like I'm telling you the same thing over and over. All right, guys, as always, I love y'all and blessed to be. Bye.